What would you like to see change in your life? And what is the biggest obstacle that you're facing now? I run a 5-week program at the Inner Knowing School for serious individuals who are ready to take the next step in their personal and professional lives. I will personally be coaching a small group of individuals, a number of practical tools and frameworks for creating an intuition practice and for self mastery. You can find more at theinnerknowingschool.com. I have a master's certification in intuition medicine, and I've condensed 10 plus years of experience and research navigating how to harness your energy and intuition in an easy to access live curated course. Now, as someone who's helped countless creatives, entrepreneurs, and many who are just plain stuck, open doors of possibility they never thought existed, I've seen this strategy transform people's inner states and external reality. And the best part is that you'll skyrocket your output and unlock your creative genius. I'll work with you weekly live to overcome your limiting beliefs and show you how to manage your energy instead of your time. I'll teach you how to create clarity, processes, develop your intuition based on some of the top tools and frameworks that I've developed. And you'll get access to guided meditations and visualizations not available anywhere else. This method is so effective that even if you don't have that much time, or if you think that you might not be ready, this will work for you. You can check out the link in the show notes to join the waiting list, and you can check out what past clients had to say about the program. Wishing you all many blessings ahead. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Blood Moon Box, a monthly subscription box service for period pads and tampons to help support all humans who have a cycle for that time of the month, and no need to run to a store to mix and match period supplies that don't cater to the entire ebbs and flows of your cycle. There are 2 box options based on your cycle, light and medium, and then heavy. And in addition to the period products, you'll also receive PMS herbal teas, a candle, and some other items for your time of the month. You can reserve a box by navigating to bloodmoonbox.com. And bloodmoonbox.com is on a mission to destigmatize the idea of period blood. At Blood Moon Box, they believe that it is the time to honor the enchanting magic within every person who has a cycle. So join us in embracing the magic of your cycle with Blood Moon Box. Hi, my name is Yasmin Terehi, and this is Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in the world of consciousness, wellness, and well-being. On today's episode, I'll be speaking with Peter Diamandis. Named by Fortune as one of the world's 50 greatest leaders, Peter is the founder and executive chairman of the X-PRIZE Foundation, which leads the world in designing and operating large-scale incentive competitions. He's also the executive founder of Singularity University, a graduate-level Silicon Valley institution that counsels the world's leaders on exponentially growing technologies. I could go on and on about Peter, but we'll get into it in the show itself. So welcome to the show, Peter.
A pleasure. Good to be here.
So, Peter, to kick it off, what do you spend most of your time thinking about?
That's a great question. First off, I've got 2 12-year-old boys, so they occupy a good part of my mind. Going into middle school, most of my time is focused on the area of adding 20 or 30 healthy years on people's lives, the area of longevity, if you want, or health span extension. I believe that it's this decade that converging exponential technologies are going to allow us to understand why we age, how to slow it, stop it, perhaps even reverse it. So there's a lot of me dedicated towards that. I went to medical school many, many years ago, never practiced, became an entrepreneur, started 26 companies along the way. And I've become enamored with the idea of helping people live longer, healthier lives. I think it's the biggest gift we can give society. I also think it's the biggest aspect that every mother wants for her kids, and that would benefit all of us as humans.
And Peter, was there like a particular event that catalyzed this mission, or was it just sort of a slow burn?
I mean, it's been something that's been with me all my life. When I was in medical school, I remember watching a television show on long-lived sea life that certain species of whales, bowhead whales in particular, could live 200 years, and Greenland sharks could live 500 years, and sea turtles could live potentially longer. And I was like, if they can live that long, why can't we? And it's either got to be a hardware problem or a software problem, and we're going to be able to eventually fix that. And I think it's now that we're getting the tools to do just that, to understand how to extend the healthy lifespan. And I'm not talking about being in a wheelchair or drooling. I'm talking about how do you make, 100 years old and you 60 or 50, so you've got the vitality. And so that's probably half of my time. The other half of my time, Yasmin, is really focused on helping people level up their mindsets. Um, and what I typically say to people is, listen, if you think about the world's greatest leaders, I don't care, who you want to choose, Mahatma Gandhi, Elon Musk, Martin Luther King, Richard Branson, pick your favorite leader, tech or political. And you said, what made them such a great leader? What made them successful? Was it the money they had? Was it the technology they had? Was it their friends? Or was it maybe their mindset? And most people, the vast majority would say, yeah, it's their mindset. If you took away everything from those leaders and retained their mindset, they'd regain their success. And so if that's the case, the question I ask people is, what mindset do you have? Where did you get it? And more importantly, what mindset do you need for the decade ahead? So the books I write, the blogs, the podcasts, the work that I do in coaching, 360 CEOs and such, is really focused on helping them up-level their mindset.
Hmm. So this is a topic I absolutely love thinking about and talking about, this idea of identity, creating, thoughts, beliefs, and actions. So how do you kind of give people tools to shift their mindset, especially if, perhaps maybe they've had a really difficult upbringing or they have these kind of ingrained subconscious beliefs? Is it just through, tools and practices, or are you also using technology to support shifts in mindset?
Well, first off, what I try and do is give people an understanding of what really is going on. And, the recent 3 to 5, maybe 7, 8 years, most everyone on the planet starting to, wake up to what's going on in artificial intelligence. And they've heard about neural nets and machine learning. And what we've learned from these technologies is that when you train a neural net is basically a computational structure based on the human brain. It's like uh, artificial neurons, if you would. And you train an AI to recognize cats by showing it image after image after image of a cat. And after a time, it begins to realize a cat's got little ears here and a tail, and it's typically got fur and 4 legs. In the same way that we humans as children begin to recognize a square, a circle, a triangle, and it's repetitive, um, you know, uh, demonstration or intake of information, and that shapes the way your mind works. And in the same way, we are constantly training our mindset by the stuff we take in. So I like to say, if you're watching CNN, which I call the crisis news network or the constantly negative news network, you're going to be training your mind in fear and scarcity. So the first thing I'm telling folks is, listen, you're always training your mindset by virtue of what you read, what you watch, who you hang out with, the conversations you have. And you can retrain your mindset if you're clear where you want to go by what you read, what you watch, who you hang out with, what you have on your walls. And I'm, in the same way that, when I'm teaching people about health and longevity, I'm saying, listen, let food be your medicine. Be careful, what you're eating and taking into your body, minimize sugar, whole plants, things like that. And I'm very religious about what I take into my body to nourish it. I'm also very religious about what I let into my mind to shape my mindset. And so that's the first fundamental. You have to choose what you want. The equivalent is, if you want to get skinny and you're overweight, hang out with skinny people. Or if you're out of shape, you want to get into shape, hang out with people who, go to the gym every day. These things rub off on you. So just some thoughts there.
So, what about this, concept of discernment, like really, fine tuning your own algorithm? How do you, let's say, protect yourself or create boundaries when it comes to your mindset? You travel a lot. You're probably exposed to so many different types of people. So, when things are moving so fast and you are so integrated in society, how do you protect your mindset? Do you have rituals? Do you have practices that you do yourself every day?
I do. I do travel a lot, and I'm on the road, and I'm usually on the stage, the one talking, so it's easy to protect your mindset when you're proclaiming it. um, I do get into debates and arguments, and I use those debates, arguments, conversations to try and shape uh, the way I think about things. And those are, growth opportunities. I'm constantly writing. So in the morning, so my practice that would tie to this is, a gratitude practice at night when I go to sleep. What are the things that I'm most grateful for from the day? And they typically, when I'm in town at home, will revolve around my conversations with my kids or an interaction with them or something along those lines, or someone I met, or a thank you I received, whatever it might be. It's the simple things that give me that gratitude in life. In the morning, there is a meditation. I'm not a long meditator. It might be 10, 15 minutes, but it's a chance to just check in with sort of like myself, my body, the cosmic intelligence, if you would. And then the other thing is to be very clear about what I hope to achieve in that day. You know, we can all get frustrated by having a day go by where, oh my God, I worked all day. I'm not sure what I got done. But in the morning, if you can identify, like, if I get these three things done today, it's going to be a huge win. Like if I just get out to the gym, and really give it everything for an hour, or if I write this blog, or if I, have this conversation that's going to be difficult for me to have. If you can identify, just three, solid things and then go and do them, everything above that, that's a win, and everything above there is extraordinary. There's a concept that I learned from a dear friend, Dan Sullivan, about living in the gap, which is, you know, when you look at where you are, if you compare yourself today against everything you hope for and dream for in life, all the people you might compare yourself to, there can be an infinite gap forward. You're comparing where you are today against infinity, um, rather than comparing how far you've come in the last 6 months or year. So celebrating what you've achieved and then making, a defined step every single day. I mean, these things help your mindset in an incredible fashion.
Hmm. I love that you called out Dan Sullivan. The book, I think, is called The Gap and the Gain. Is that the
Yes.
title?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And let's talk a little bit about artificial intelligence because it's such a hot topic now. Obviously, it's been around for a little bit of time, but now it's becoming a little bit more of a mainstream conversation. And so, how do you see kind of AI driving big technological advancements in the decade ahead? And where do you see humanity going? I know we spoke about that a little bit in our previous conversation, but I'm really curious. What are you paying attention to as large themes coming out of AI?
So I spend a lot of time in the field, advising AI startups, investing in them, writing about them, working on a documentary around the subject as well. And, I view AI as the single greatest tool humanity will ever create. It's the ultimate interface with all other technology. We're all going to have a version of Jarvis from Iron Man, right? Remember, Iron Man is there asking Jarvis to, like, make him coffee and to fix his fusion energy device and do this. And, and Jarvis, in good hearted manner, is doing whatever Tony Stark needs. So we're going to have this, and this AI, we have versions of it now. I won't call out Alexa because she'll wake up and start asking me things, or Siri or whatever. But they're going to get much more intelligent, and they're going to be our interfaces to the world. Everything is going to become intelligent. every device, every surface in your home, everything around you will be interactable and intelligent in some fashion. And AI will reach and exceed human level capabilities. And then eventually we'll go from artificial general intelligence to artificial superintelligence. I don't have any question that these things will happen. Now the question is it dystopian in nature? I do know that these tools will be the key tools enabling us to extend the healthy human lifespan significantly, cure disease, extract CO2 out of the atmosphere and the oceans. I mean, all of the challenges we have, always the key to solving them is intelligence. And when this intelligence appliance becomes a capable every place, they're going to help us solve bigger and bigger problems. The challenge is the dystopian use of that technology. And as a friend at Singularity University, Neil Jacobstein was the first one I heard say this. I'm not worried about artificial intelligence. I'm worried about human stupidity, right? And it's true. So these tools, like fire and like the knife, whatever it might be, are going to be used for good and bad purposes. And I'm not even worried about artificial superintelligence. I do believe in my heart of hearts there's probably some evidence out there, and I need to find a really strong either mathematical or logical construct that says the more intelligent systems are, the more life-loving they are, the more abundance-loving they are. Because I fundamentally believe that. I can't prove that right now. And so as we get to, artificial superintelligence in 10, 20, 30 years, we'll see. But in the interim, I'm concerned about AI being used to cause havoc during the elections coming up in 2024 and in the years that follow, where malevolent actors are using this to try and wreak havoc. So that's the concern. And so how do we, meaning entrepreneurs, solve these problems? How do government policies protect their citizens against these problems? So that's really the meat of it. One of the concepts, Yasmin, is the idea of alignment, making sure that as AI is evolving, it's aligned with humanity's best interests. And so that's a really important point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. So, something that's been, interesting when it comes to talking about the evolution of AI is it's a really reflection of kind of human consciousness. Like input in, output is sort of a reflection of what's being input. So how can we kind of protect ourselves from the advancement of AI to a point in which we probably won't be able to defend ourselves from it, from an intelligence perspective. And then also the consciousness problem, right? I think Robert Otto said once, people can only give you the level of intimacy and consciousness that they have with themselves. And I think the way products are created are also similar. The level of consciousness associated with a product is really dependent on the consciousness of the founder. And so yeah, I'm curious about those two questions. Pick one.
If we could understand what consciousness is, or even the definition of sentience per se, is it possible to have super intelligent automata that are super capable and still not conscious? I think we're going to find out. One of the questions is, can we instill morality and ethics into AIs is another. Mo Gadot, who's a friend, he wrote an amazing book called Scary Smart. He wrote first a book called Solve for Happy, which I commend to everybody, and then an amazing book called Scary Smart on the topic of AI. And he says, listen, we are AI's parents, and we are giving rise to this new life form. And I believe that. If you think about it, like you said, everything that an AI is being trained on is really our content we've created. It's everything we've put on Twitter, on Facebook, on our corporate websites, what we've written, what we've communicated. All of that is the food upon which AI has been built. And so we are birthing this. One of the examples that Mo gives in his book, Scary Smart, is he says, listen, in the fiction of Superman, when Superman lands in Kansas or wherever it is, and he's adopted by the Kent family, they're a loving, God-fearing, good family, and they bring him up to be a positive superhero because they feed him on morals and ethics that are aligned with that. But imagine if Superman had landed in his capsule instead in the Bronx, and he's brought up by a bunch of drug lords. Would he have been a supervillain? Right. So as we give birth to this intelligence, how are we feeding it? What mindset are we creating for it as well? And so a lot of the conversation right now on making sure we have alignment, again, with AGI as it's evolving, is to make sure that the training sets we're giving it are training sets that reflect our ethics and morals that we desire.
And specifically, let's talk about ethics, because I think that's a really interesting topic. How are ethics being integrated in AI currently? And what do you think that kind of future conversation, or perhaps, a think tank, an ethics think tank, how is that going to be sort of integrated into the larger conversation?
That's a great question. And I don't know that people are really taking on ethics and morals in the training of AI fully yet. But it is the conversation that's happening at OpenAI. Sam Altman's spoken about this at some length. Imad Mustaq at Stability AI has been talking about creating a set of training data sets that would be foundational for all AIs. And of course, ethics and morals are different in different nations and different times. And it's incredible, to think about this, that we accept what our morals and ethics are today, but they weren't always that way. And the way we behave towards each other today may not be the way it will be, 10, 20, 30 years from now. I remember asking AI a question of what is humanity doing today that 30 or 40 years from now will be considered immoral, unethical. And one of the answers was, you kill animals for food. And that's a fascinating answer.
Wow. Yeah, this question of morality it's interesting because it is dependent on culture, on time, on I grew up Middle Eastern American, right? So morality is a very different conversation in the Middle East than it is in the United States. So I do think that the conversation should be more about maybe not morality, but consciousness. And again, very difficult to define, but it's sort of our evolutionary kind of movement as a species, like where we're all going, where we could create a world that's win-win and not a zero-sum game. But that's not where we're currently at. So let's talk a little bit about XPRIZE. So you are the founder of XPRIZE. Why did you create XPRIZE? And I'm curious to know, what are you most excited about with the XPRIZE Foundation?
Sure. So I was born in the 60s, and I was weaned on Apollo and Star Trek, right? So Apollo showed me this is what the world can do today. And I jokingly call Star Trek that scientific documentary that shows us where the world is going. And I was hooked. I loved space, and it was everything for me. And so I, had super high expectations of how fast we would accelerate. We'd get to the moon and Mars and beyond. And I ended up going to medical school because to make my parents happy, first and foremost. And secondly, because when I looked at the statistics of becoming an astronaut, it was either you were a fighter pilot, which I wasn't going to be, or doctors had a high probability of entrance. But I never applied. But I did pursue space, right after medical school. I had a launch company going and a satellite company going. And when I watched how slowly the space program was evolving, and really it was going backwards from where the Apollo program was, I was like, what is going on? How do we change that? And I read one day that Charles Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic in 1927, not on a whim, but to win a $25,000 prize. And as I read the story, I was like just amazed. I was like, wow, okay, here's this guy, a guy named Raymond Ortegue. He's born in France under the Pyrenees Mountains. He comes to the US penniless in like 1899. After World War I, when aviation makes its debut, he begins as a hotel busboy and becomes a hotel manager, and then buys the Hotel Lafayette, Manhattan. And he decides he wants to connect his birthplace of France and his new home of New York. And so he offers out a $25,000 prize in 1919. And that $25,000 prize drove it drove 9 teams who spent about $400,000, 16 times the prize money to win it. And Lindbergh was one of those teams. So Lindbergh goes after the 25,000. He makes it from New York to Le Bourget, wins the money, and in the heels of his, or in the footsteps of his success, all of a sudden aviation goes from this crazy idea to the birth of a new industry. And so I said, that's what I need for space. I need a space prize like that. So in the margins of The Spirit of St. Louis, the book that Lindbergh wrote, his biography, I wrote XPRIZE, where X was a variable to be replaced by the name of the sponsor. I didn't have my Nobel, my Pulitzer, my Ortegue. And it was going to be a prize for the first team who could build a private spaceship, fly to 100 kilometers, land, and then fly again within 2 weeks. And it took me forever, about 5-6 years, to raise the $10 million prize. We did. That XPRIZE, named after the Ansari family, Anousheh Ansari, who funded it. The Ansari XPRIZE drove $100 million in expenditures. 26 teams went after it, and it was won by Burt Rutan, funded by Paul Allen, and then Richard Branson bought the rights to create Virgin Galactic. So that was a huge success. On the heels of that success, I was able to get folks like Elon Musk and James Cameron and Larry Page from Google to join my board, and we built XPRIZE into a platform. And we've launched over $300 million in prizes. And again, these prizes are not for an idea. They're for someone who actually goes out and builds something, goes and makes it happen. You have to demonstrate a very specific goal. So we've done prizes for mapping the ocean floor in 30 times faster than the tech that existed before. We have prizes for removing CO2 out of the atmosphere. We have a $100 million XPRIZE that Elon Musk has funded. We have prizes for stopping wildfires at their inception. And so that's the XPRIZE Foundation. Very proud of it.
And so, Peter, what are some of the prizes that you're most excited about right now, or that maybe you're working on right now in the next year or two?
Yeah, sure. So we just launched that wildfire prize I mentioned to you. Living in California and having family in Greece and seeing just the havoc wildfires are taking. This is a prize that says you have to monitor 1,000 square kilometers, and if you detect a wildfire, you have to put it out within 10 minutes, right? So when's the best time to zap it? At the very inception, right? If it's bigger than 2 meters or if it's moving, put it out. The prize, I got Elon to fund for $100 million on gigaton carbon removal is a big one. We're getting ready to launch a prize, hopefully before the end of the year, on extending the healthy human lifespan. And then a very large prize we're discussing on large-scale desalination, right? People talk about water wars and water scarcity, and it's an issue in different places, but we live on a water planet, right? 2/3 of the surface is covered with water, but it's salt water. All right, 97.5% is salt water, 2% are ice caps, and we fight over 0.5% of the water in our lakes and our rivers. But what if you could extract water from the atmosphere or desalinate on demand? And we're pursuing prizes in food, water, waste, in education, in healthcare, um, in biodiversity. One of the prizes we talked about recently, which I love, is can you use AI to translate and communicate with animals? Imagine an AI that's able to learn the language fully of an animal and communicate with you in some level of accuracy in both directions. These are all just fun, crazy ideas, and I like to say the day before something is truly a breakthrough, it's a crazy idea.
That's amazing. I'm waiting for that. And what about the builders and creators that are pursuing these prizes? Have you noticed like themes emerging out of who's kind of like where the builders and creators are coming from, like maybe certain parts of the world or what types of kind of profiles they have? I'm just curious, kind of who are the people who are excited about building and creating these new technologies?
They're entrepreneurs. They're individuals who are tired of waiting for someone else to solve the problem. They're individuals who are desirous of taking action. You don't have to be a technologist to do this. You can be someone who can organize a group of technologists, right? I say everybody has a role. You could be a great fundraiser, a great marketer, a great storyteller. You can write the checks, or you can go and scrub the dishes, whatever it might be. But putting together a team that says we're going to go after solving this issue. One of the things XPRIZE does is it gives people a target to shoot for, right? Because without a target, you'll miss it every time.
Right. I love that. So all types of people can really get involved in XPRIZE. It's not just for engineers or, product folks. It's for
Yeah,
everyone. Okay.
it is, and we have some competitions. We have high school teams. We had a junior high school team, led by their teacher, and you may not win, but just attacking the problem and thinking about it is a huge part of the equation.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. So let's talk a little about Singularity University. You're also the executive founder of this
Mhm.
organization. I'm curious, why did you create Singularity University, and what are you most excited about for it?
Sure. So I'll go back and forth between Singularity University and Abundance 360. Abundance 360 is the highest level of Singularity U, and I run a 360 around throughout the year. The year is 2008. I'm going to take us back there, and I was trekking through Patagonia in Chile, and I brought one book with me, which was Ray Kurzweil's "The Singularity Is Near." And it's it's this 3-inch thick hardback book in my backpack. And I'm reading the book and I'm just enamored by it. I mean, in all honesty, I'm a techie and a geek, and I'd studied medicine and engineering and biology, and most of what I read in it I had known, but the way he presented it, that we have these exponentially growing technologies. Um, and these technologies are, computation, sensors, networks, AI, robotics, 3D printing, synthetic biology, AR, VR, blockchain. And these technologies are all doubling in power every, 18 to 24 months. And they're converging. And as I read this, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. These are the technologies that are going to change everything. They're the power to solve every problem. They're the power to make dreams come true. And I literally reached out to Ray, who I had known. I was recruiting him onto my board at the XPRIZE. And I said, Ray, let's have lunch. And I sat down with him and I said, Ray, there's no place on the planet that you can go and really get an overview of where these technologies are today and where they're going in the years ahead. I'm not talking about becoming a technologist. I'm not talking about how to code AI or how to, basically design a new life form. I'm saying conceptually, understanding where the tech is and where it's going and the tools it's giving you. And I'd like to start a university, and I called it Singularity University. Years earlier, I had co-founded something called the International Space University, which is now in Strasbourg, France, which was an interdisciplinary international university for the study of space. And I said, I want to build something like ISU, and I want to call it Singularity University, SU. And we shook hands on it, and off to the races. We announced it at TED. We had a founding conference in which Larry Page, then the president of Google, stood up and said, 99.99999% of the people are not focused on solving the world's biggest problems. I think we should have an institution that's focused on educating people to use technologies to solve the world's biggest problems. And SU was off to the races. We ran a graduate studies program and then executive programs and a global summit. And then 11 years ago, I kicked off something called Abundance 360, which is a year-round 25-year leadership program. So I committed to running Abundance 360 as part of Singularity for 25 years. And we're entering year 12 now. So I have a cadre of CEOs who are running, multi-million to multi-billion dollar companies that meet with me for 5 days in LA every year, and then quarterly digitally throughout the year. And so with that, what I'm trying to do is give people an understanding of, listen, this is what happened this past year, contextualizing what's going on in all those technologies, and this is where things are going. And you have to pay attention, and this is how you 10x your company or how you solve the problem you want solved. So that's the mindset. So Abundance 360 and Singularity is all about mindset and use of tech to solve problems, to go after moonshots.
What about some of the companies that, are part of that circle? Like, what type of founders or companies are you kind of most excited about, and why?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love entrepreneurs. I think it's one of the highest art forms. And, I'd like to say the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities. I want to become a billionaire, help a billion people. And that's the mindset of an entrepreneur. Every time you see a problem, instead of complaining or bitching about it, say, okay, how do I solve it? And how do I turn that into a new business model, whatever the case might be? That mindset of solution-oriented is what creates a better world for all of us. It's what creates this abundance mindset. So the entrepreneurs for Abundance 360 and Singularity are people who, are driven by a passion, a purpose. So everybody who's part of Abundance 360, there are two prerequisites or two first steps for them. The first is we help them create what I call a massive transformative purpose, or an MTP. And I have a formulation of how people do it. And my MTP, my massive transformative purpose, is to inspire and guide entrepreneurs to create a hopeful, compelling, and abundant future for humanity. So I say that every day, 2, 3, 4 times a day. It's the filter that allows me to decide what I do and what I don't do. So I love inspiring and guiding entrepreneurs towards what end? Towards the end of helping them create a hopeful, compelling, and abundant future. Are the things they're doing going to uplift humanity? And with that MTP in place, the next thing we work with our members is to create a moonshot. Where are they going to go 10 times bigger when the rest of the world is trying to go 10% bigger, right? It's 100 times bigger impact. It's usually not 100 times more difficult.
Wow. Okay. So this is the part where, I remember when we spoke at this conference that we met at, we actually did an exercise with the MTP. And I found it to be very revelatory for so many reasons, because I think, it's almost like your umbrella mission and purpose. And I love that you mentioned that you sort of remind yourself of it throughout the day, right?
Yes.
Because that piece, I think, is so important. So how do you do that? Do you just put it on your phone, or at this point, is it just kind of automatic that you've...
It's automatic. It's I will end my shower with it every morning. So that's part of a routine for me. It's the filter by which I chose for us to have this conversation. It's supporting you and reaching those listening is in line with my MTP. So yes, I will do that. And for me, an MTP is driven by emotion. We are emotional beings as humans. And it is either driven by an emotional positive energy of awe and excitement and desirement to make the world a better place, or it can be driven by a negative emotion, meaning, you are hurt, you are injured, you never want that to happen to anybody else, and you are committed to solving that problem, to decimating that issue. And those are powerful energies. And an MTP gives voice to it. It should be clear who you're serving. I'm serving entrepreneurs. It should be clear what the action verbs are. I love inspiring and guiding, and what the end goal is. And it should be something that you remember, and hopefully those around you remember sufficiently. Right? It shouldn't be some long, drawn out, mission statement. And you can have an MTP. It can change over time. My MTP in my 20s and 30s was around space. And then it was around solving grand challenges. And now it's around, I usually have an MTP that will last me a decade or two. And that's fine. You can have an MTP for yourself, for your family, for your company, for your country.
Wow. That's such a powerful reminder. Thank you so much, Peter. And you mentioned also that sometimes, when you do the work around moonshot, that if the goal is 10 times bigger, it doesn't mean that it's 10 times harder. Can you say more about that?
Sure. So, and there's a lot of examples here, but most of us, if we're entrepreneurs, if we're running a foundation, whatever you're doing, and if you've got a big dream, you're typically year to year, day to day, you're hoping for 10%, right? If you can increase your income by 10% or reduce your cost by 10% or get 10% more viewers, whatever the case might be, that's good. And, that's the majority of the world is like, that's a good increase of 10%. A moonshot is not 10%, it's 1,000%. It's 10x bigger, 10 times 100%, right? So it's 1,000%. And the example, one of the incredible thinkers in this area is a gentleman named Astro Teller, and a lot of this comes from his teachings. Astro is the captain of moonshots at Alphabet. He runs the organization called X, previously called Google X. And the example he gives is, listen, if you have a car that you've built and it's getting 50 miles per gallon, and you want it to get 55 miles per gallon, you can get there by working harder. You can make it more aerodynamic. You can use lighter weight materials. You can fine tune the engine somewhat, get better tires, and you'll get from 50 miles per gallon, or I guess we should use kilometers. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But you can get it to 55. But if you want to get from 50 to 500, there's no way you're going to get there incrementally. It just isn't going to happen. You need to start with a clean sheet of paper. And the prototypical example I write about here is, I knew Elon back in 2000 when he sold PayPal to eBay. And I met him when he decided to want to get into the space business. And he originally went to Russia to go and buy a Russian launch vehicle for the purpose of launching a mouse around Mars or to land a plant on the Martian surface as a mechanism to encourage NASA to do more, to get people to think about going to Mars. And he goes to Russia to buy a rocket, and the rockets that the Russians have been all using are effectively old intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, where you take the warhead off the top and you put your satellite on there. And here comes this multi-centimillionaire from U.S., and so the Russians are trying to gouge him on prices. And he looks at this old hardware, being the tech genius that he is, and he goes, "This is ridiculous. Not only am I not going to buy your rocket, but I'm just going to start my own rocket company." And he comes back, and the holy grail of space, and I've been in it for God knows 35, 40 years, is reusability. And if an airplane that flew you from New York to London was thrown away at the end of every flight, it'd be really expensive to fly to London. It's the fact that the airplane can be refueled and flies back and forth, thousands of times, that makes it affordable for us to buy, a ticket to London for $500. So he started with a clean sheet of paper, and he built his Merlin engines to be fully reusable, and then built the Falcon 1, the Falcon 1E, the Falcon 9, the Falcon Heavy, and now is building Starship. But he started with a clean sheet of paper, and SpaceX is running circles, like orders of magnitude better than every government space agency out there. And so that's an example. I have my own examples in health, in the kinds of companies I'm trying to build. One of them is called Fountain Life, which is sort of the most advanced diagnostics and therapeutics. And our mission is, helping people really detect disease at the very beginning, but also predict what's likely to happen and prevent it from coming down. And the best way to, grow older is to not die from something stupid, something that was preventable, and then the most advanced therapeutics. So each of us can look at what's your moonshot, right? What is it that is a bold goal? You may not know how to get there, right? If it's a real moonshot, you don't know. It's a 10-year objective, and it's a crazy idea, and you need to get there a step at a time.
I love the idea of the moonshot, because it's like a vision that is pulling you, as opposed to you kind of reacting and responding to kind of smaller
Yes.
goals. It's just, wow, powerful. So, Peter, I know we're coming at time, but I have a couple last questions.
Please.
I think our audience oftentimes is really interested in learning about different strategies that they can, utilize to sort of stay relevant and upskill, especially in this like adapting, work environment. And so what do you think people should be doing when it comes to the future of work, and also the future of their own like kind of personal life with AI and technology? I mean, what would you tell people to sort of be thinking about or doing today as these changes are coming online?
Well, the first thing is play and be curious. I think everybody should be playing with AI, whatever elements, whether it's ChatGPT or Bard or um, any of the other players that are coming out right now. It's really play to the maximum degree you can. We can be curious, meaning you can learn about any of these things for free on YouTube, right? Or hop on ChatGPT and ask it, what should I know about AI? And then just start having a conversation and go down rabbit holes. That's the amazing world that we live in. Eventually, every profession is going to first go through a phase where it has an AI co-pilot, where AI is your thought partner. It helps you in everything you do. Eventually, all of the doctors I know, I tell them, listen, diagnosing without AI in the loop is going to become malpractice very soon. The best surgeons in the world are going to be robots driven by AIs. It's not a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. They'll be slowed down by regulations and fears and so forth. But all of this demonetizes and democratizes access to incredible health. And so understanding that, the second thing is, I think everybody should really get, really clued into what is your MTP, what is your moonshot. No matter what stage you are at, no matter what you're doing, these are things that you should enable yourself with Yeah, I built an AI engine that is available free. If you go to, I think it's moonshotplanner.com. I'll actually check while we're talking here if that's the right URL. Yeah, moonshotplanner.com, and on that website, it's totally free. It will an AI engine that I've trained up in through my books and all will help you. First off, design your massive transformative purpose. And then once you have that, help you craft a moonshot and stage your moonshot. Like, okay, this is my 10-year goal. This is where I need to be in 5 years. This is where I need to be in a year. These are the things I want to think about over the next month. And this is the first thing I do like this afternoon, right? And so those are the elements. I think guard your mindset. What mindset do you want to have? Should you have? Some of my next books will be on mindset in particular, because I think it's the greatest gift we have and we can shape for ourselves, for our employees, for our families.
Amazing. Okay, so we'll include that link in the show notes, moonshotplanner.com, so that folks can really be tuning their awareness, like putting their radio dial to the station that they want to listen to, as opposed to, it's almost like playing offense rather than playing defense in life.
Absolutely. Guard what's let into your mind the same way if you're someone who believes in a healthy diet, you guard what you eat. It's truly that. It's like I'll never forget when I was my first university, International Space University. I was in Boston, where we had our offices. It was above a bagel shop in Kendall Square, and my co-founder Todd Hawley put over his desk Murphy's Law that said, if anything can go wrong, it will. And I had the desk, we had our desks opposite each other, and I'm staring at this thing every day. And I said, take that down. He goes, no. And I was really getting pissed at it. So it's like so negative, take it down. And so one day I walk in, I made my own poster, and it said, if anything can go wrong, fix it, to hell with Murphy. And I wrote Peter's Law on top of it. And if you Google Peter's Laws, you'll see 32 of them. There are lots of posters of them out there. When given a choice, take both. Start at the top and work your way up. Do it by the book, but be the author. No simply means begin one level higher, and it goes on from there. And these are the things I've learned in life that have been my truisms and have guided me.
Wow. Where can we find these laws, Peter?
Just if you go to Diamandis.com, there's a lot of assets there. You can find Peter's Laws on my website. If you go to Diamandis.com/longevity, I just published a free book you can download there, and it's all of my longevity practices. So, I've read hundreds of books. I've started multiple companies in this, but it's like I've tried to reduce it to something that you can read in an hour, that it's prescriptive on diet, do this, on exercise, on sleep. There's no diet that's right for everybody, but there are a few fundamentals that are absolute for everybody. So anyway, lots of assets there. And then I put out 2 blogs a week, one on longevity and one on mindset and exponential technologies. So again, diamandis.com is your go-to on that.
Okay, perfect. And we'll also include that in the show notes. So Peter, looking back on your journey, you have such a hyphenated career and it's just been so prolific. What sort of things have surprised you the most? Looking back, it could be about anything, the technology, humanity, entrepreneurs.
U.S. politics, but I don't have no time for that. Unfortunately, I tell people you can ask me about anything, just not politics or sports. I think in some ways, how we keep on surprising ourselves on the speed of technology, and then in some ways how slow it's been here in a few places, and then how fast it's been in others. I think the negative mindset that people have keeps surprising me. It's like people are just concerned about the world they're living in, and should I bring children to this world? And I'm like, oh my God, what world are you looking at? It's like, this is a world filled with miracles. You have a piece of technology in your hand that, in parts of Africa and Asia, you can buy for $50 that has the world's information, access to AI, entertainment, two-way video conferencing for free. A world where we're increasing the amount of solar, where now fusion is coming online. A world where child mortality has gone from 50% or 45% child mortality 50 years ago down to under 5% today. Where we're able to grow protein and have vertical farms. I mean, I truly believe there is no problem we cannot solve, and that we're heading towards an incredible world of abundance. And I want people to see that world. Yes, there are lots of problems we have to fix. 100%. Is it perfect? No. Do I have things that bother me, concern me? 100%. But do I have great hope? Absolutely.
And Peter, what's kind of your call to action for folks listening? What's your main takeaway? I mean, you mentioned a lot of it in the show itself, but if you could leave us with one or two things to just remember to do today, what would it be?
I think it is guard your mindset. The mindset I focus on is a gratitude mindset, a purpose-driven mindset, an abundance mindset. There's nothing truly scarce. We are living in a world where we're creating abundance in every area. And guard your mindset. Careful who you hang out with, what you listen to, what you read, and when you choose carefully, and then go for something big. Right? It's my call to action. Find a problem you're passionate about and solve it. Get a team, go after it. I like to joke, we don't need another photo sharing app in the world. Go build something that's going to make the world a better place, because you can. More than any time ever in human history, a single individual can make a dent in the universe.
On that note, thank you so much, Peter. This was so inspiring. I know that we're going to get a lot of calls for this show. And are there any resources that you can point folks to in order to learn more about you and your work? I know you mentioned a couple of the websites, but if you could give us the couple of them.
I'm at Peter Diamandis on Twitter. I tweet a lot on everything I'm seeing and doing. Also the same at Instagram. I put out 2 blogs a week. If you go to diamandis.com, you'll get pinged to sign up for the blog. And my podcast is called Moonshots, and I'm interviewing people who are changing the world. And it's really a podcast to inspire people to follow in their footsteps, because you can, and I think most people should.
Okay, and it's called Moonshot, so you can find it on Apple,
yes.
Spot.
Yeah, you can find it all over the place. So Moonshots, yes.
Okay, perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Peter. This was amazing, and I just really applaud you for everything you've done to contribute to humanity. It's really, really inspiring.
My pleasure. Thank you for reaching out, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Likewise, Peter. And for our audience, thanks for joining and for listening. In this episode, we learned about AI and the future of humanity with Peter Diamandis. And you can tune in to Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in consciousness, well-being, and wellness. Thanks again,